Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our third Action Step Ask an Expert session. So we are having some technical difficulties. My co-presenter is having some technical difficulties with her hardware. And so if everyone could just hang tight for just a few minutes, we're checking to see if there's another computer that she might be able to use so that she can join us for this session today. If she's not able to join, I think what we'll be doing is postponing this webinar for 24 hours from now and trying again for what would be 5 o'clock Mountain Time here in Denver, Colorado, and 12 noon in New Zealand. So while we are waiting to see if my co-presenter's computer is working, I'd love to hear what kinds of questions. Oh, it looks like we may have some luck.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Natasha.
Yay. Hi. Sorry, everyone, to keep everyone waiting.
No worries. I think it's a webinar miracle. Thank you for joining.
It is.
Okay, terrific. So, Natasha, if you're good to go, I'll go ahead and start presenting the slides, and then we'll transition into your demo.
Yep, that sounds great.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, everybody, for hanging in there with us. Really appreciate it. So today we're going to talk about automation and tasks and workflows. And then Natasha is going to give a demonstration on Zapier. And we're going to have a brief poll, and then we'll take your questions. So, as I mentioned, my co-presenter is Natasha Dubauskis-Reed, and she is our expert today. She truly is an expert, and I can't tell you what a joy it's been working with Natasha over the last 5 months since I joined Actionstep. She comes from the legal industry, so she has a whole wealth of experience and knowledge on how to use Actionstep and really can apply what we have available for you to your real world scenarios. So she can be reached at natasha.dubauskis-reed@actionstep.com if you've got questions. She loves to share her tips, tricks, and her knowledge. So thanks for joining us today, Natasha. I'm Christy Dillon. And I am new on the customer success team here at Actionstep. I started about 5 months ago, and I'm here because I love working with our customers so that they can optimize usage of Actionstep to achieve their firm's business goals. So today we're going to talk a little bit about automation, and our ultimate goal at Actionstep is to provide our customers with a fully automated practice management system. By utilizing Actionstep's workflows, tasks, reminders, etc., you can take the administration out of your work so that you can have the time to focus on the actual client work. So automation is all about putting things on autopilot so that you don't have to control every little thing. By automating tasks, you allow your business to free up team members from repetitive actions and concentrate on more important duties and tasks. Workflows are the key to transforming your law practice into an efficient business. You can create a unique set of steps and tasks for each matter type, automate each step to collect information, assign tasks, and make sure that everything is checked off before moving on to the next step. You can also delegate this work to your staff with the assurance that everything will be done according to plan. Zapier provides a go-between for web-based applications that enable you to not just automate Actionstep, but also automate other web-based applications that you use like Outlook, MailChimp, Teams, and even other Actionstep systems. Applications communicate with each other using zaps. You can create your own zap or choose from a list of existing zaps. You can create zaps by connecting triggers in one application to actions in the other application. When something changes in one application, For example, if a new appointment is created in a Google Calendar, a trigger is activated. The Zap connects the trigger to an available action in the other system. So, for example, creating a file note, the Zap passes the information from the trigger to the action or the new appointment in your Google Calendar. So before we go on to our Zapier demonstration, we're going to have a quick poll so that we can hear from you about what you would like to see in upcoming webinars. And so the question is, what topic would you like our team to discuss at our next webinar or Ask an Expert session? So if everyone joining us could participate in the poll, that would be awesome. It really helps us make decisions on what kind of content we're going to provide for you using our webinar platform. So it looks like we've got 8 answers in total, and the majority of them are asking for document templates. Okay, I think we're ready to go on to the demonstration from Natasha. And if everyone can ask your questions in the chat, we'll be monitoring the chat while Natasha is presenting. And we're going to try to get to as many questions as we possibly can, but rest assured, we will follow up with you if your question isn't addressed in our session today. Okay, I can see your setup, Natasha. So I'll go ahead and let you take it away.
Okay, hi everyone. As we said, today's Ask an Expert is on our workflows, our automation, and also Zapier. So really, we're after any questions that you have. If you have watched the webinar, I did take you through this initial consult matter type, how to set up this workflow and these steps, how we build those automations in, and how that works with Zapier. So probably just first off, without going into all of that again, is there any questions around workflow or setting up steps? Nope. Was there any questions at all surrounding Zapier or how Zapier works?
So it looks like, let's see here. There are questions regarding certain words within a template are capped locked after a doc has been generated. That may not be necessarily Zapier related. So you tell me, Natasha.
Sorry, so when you generate a document, words are capitalized, is that correct?
It sounds like ensuring certain words within a template are capitalized after the doc has been generated.
Okay, there are certain merge field options that we use with document templates, and some of those can be uppercase. So if in your merge field you're using uppercase as a merge field option, the word will appear in uppercase. So I would have a look at the template itself, and if that is in there, it may be that whoever created the document thought those words needed to be in uppercase. That would really be the only thing that would make those merge fields be uppercase.
Okay, that's great. And we can address that after the webinar. Maybe we can reach out directly to this customer regarding that request. One of the other requests that have come in is, what is the best way to export entire matters data collection through a Zap?
Okay. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to my Zapier screen. Can we see that okay?
Yep, sure can.
Okay. So I'm just going to go into my Zap here now this is for Active Campaign. So what this Zap here does is once we get to a changed matter step in Actionstep, so let's say we're looking at a close step. So let's say we get to the end of our workflow, and that's when we want our Zap to kick in. So as soon as we get to that close step, and then we only want it to continue if it is of a certain matter type and obviously on that step. So we have to filter that so that we'll get the correct information. So as long as this links step, now this here is the action type ID and this is the step number. So as long as that fits what I'm looking for, it will continue. Now, I've asked it to find the contact in Actionstep. So that means whoever the client is on that matter, I want to bring in those details into my Zap. So that's bringing these details in here. Then I want it to find that matter. So it will find the matter that's moved to that step change and bring me in these details. And this here is when we bring in those custom data fields that I think you're talking about. Now, unfortunately, in Zapier, you can only do one at a time. And there's 2 steps to bringing in the custom data fields. And there's an added step if you're trying to update that field. So not only can we find the custom data field, we can find the value that is in that custom data field and use that, so that custom data, or we can also update it if we want to change it as well. And that will send it back to Actionstep. So in this example here, I'm finding a data collection field that's called visa expiry, because when my matter type ends, when I get to that close step, I want to bring in the customer's details, or my client's details. I also want to bring in the date that I put in for when their visa expires, and that's a custom data field. So this here finds that custom data field, which is the first step that we have to take. The second step is finding the value. Which is, that's retrieving matter custom field value. So here is where we receive the value. In this one here. So what this does is this then brings in that visa expiry date. Another one that I have found here is the visa type. So when a matter ends, I put in the visa type that was granted and I put in the visa expiry. Those 2 matter custom data fields come across into my Zap. See here, partner visa. So that's the value of that custom data field. And then what we do in our last step is I'm sending that over to Active Campaign. Active Campaign is my marketing app, and that's what I use to send out my, say, visa reminders, to send out any marketing material. So this sends across my contact, which is my client that I've got the details for, and it also sends through, I'll show you here, it adds it to my immigration customers list. Now I can have different lists for different customers. So I can have one list for immigration, I can have another list for conveyancing, I can have another list for family law, and I can make sure that whatever action type has finished, so if it's an immigration file that's finished or a conveyancing file that's finished, I can then make sure that that contact is set up in the right list. So they're getting the right marketing data from me. I set them up as a contact. And then I put in these values here, which is the visa expiry date and the type of visa. And now when that pushes through that data to ActiveCampaign, I have that now sitting in my contact list. So I can use these fields when sending out those auto emails. I can also use the date field so that I can say, right, I want the next email, which is a reminder, to be sent out 3 months before that expiry date. And that can be an auto email that goes out without me having to touch anything in between Actionstep and ActiveCampaign. So the answer to your question is 2 steps, is finding the custom field in Actionstep and then retrieving that value. If you do get some errors finding that custom data field, it can be because it's actually not set up on the matter. So in the matter type, we create our custom data fields. However, they're created when we create the matter. If we never go into those custom data fields and hit edit or hit save, even if there's no values, they don't exist yet on that matter. So what you need to do to stop that happening is add those custom data fields at the beginning, say on the start step, optional. So nobody's required to enter that data. And even if they leave it blank and just hit next or the next step or save, then those data fields are created. So they exist even though the value is 0, if that makes sense. So you may have issues there. Obviously, if you've entered the data and it's at a closed step and they're required fields, then they'll always be there. Now, if you want to update the field, you can do that as well. So if you're pulling data from somewhere else, say a form, and we want that sent to Actionstep as custom data, then you can update the custom field values as well. And that's the 3rd step. What I've done is created a whole user guide article that goes through step by step how you do that. So I'll make sure to send that out after this Ask an Expert session.
Great. Thanks, Natasha. One of the questions that has come up is, does Actionstep integrate with Power Automate, which I would like to use instead of Zapier, as I have a subscription included in my Office 365 account?
Yes, the answer to that is yes. Yes, it does. I haven't personally played with it enough. I have a little bit, but the answer is yes, it does integrate with Power Automate as well.
Okay, that's great. It sounds like there's a request for a training on that. So Jennifer?
I would love to do that, and I'll definitely put that on my list because that's something I'm really interested in as well. So that is on my list to investigate, and then I will run a webinar and Ask an Expert session on that as well.
Okay, that's terrific. And just to kind of dial it back a few steps, what are the steps to a customer acquiring Zapier and integrating it with Actionstep?
Okay, so Zapier is an integration tool. So it's a connector. So it actually connects hundreds of different applications together. So Actionstep is one of those, but Outlook, MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, there's actually not many out there now that aren't available in Zapier. So your first step is to come to the Zapier website, which is just zapier.com. Have a look at their pricing. Obviously, it's a paid service, and you normally pay per task within a Zap. And
okay.
And there's different levels of membership. So really what you can do, I think there is a free trial. So you can sign up for that first and experiment before you actually buy a subscription. But from buying the subscription, really what you do is buy the subscription and start making your Zap. There's not much else you need to do apart from when you first go to use Actionstep, it will ask you to log in and authenticate yourself. Once you've done that, then that's really the only connection that's established with Actionstep, and you can just proceed with creating those apps.
Terrific. And Natasha, in all of your experience, what kinds of workflows or tasks do you see Zapier used the most with?
Good question. Lots, to be honest. Marketing will be one of the biggest. And I think that is mainly because we are all looking to market. So we're looking to bulk email, we're looking to send out newsletters, we're looking to keep our customers informed. And one of the best ways to do that is with other software like MailChimp or ActiveCampaign. There's a lot of other ones as well. And Zapier provides you with the power to automate it so that when your staff have entered that contact, it automatically goes across, and there's nothing they need to do further. There's nothing that someone's going to forget. So, or when as I said before, we finish that meta type, it sends it automatically over. And again, there's none of these 2-3 step processes that obviously when people are busy just kind of fall by the wayside. So I think I mainly see it with marketing, but there is a lot you can do with any automations.
Terrific. And did you have a specific example that you wanted to share today?
Probably this example that I went through was really good, but what I will do is just pop back in here and just show you the workflow also that we created in Actionstep. So this meta type here is an initial console. And often I think I get people asking, how do we create a workflow? What should it look like? How complicated should it be? And you may have really complicated processes, but I think what you have to think about when creating a workflow is keeping it as simple as possible for the purpose of the workflow, and remembering there's a big difference between workflow and steps and tasks.
Yes.
So each step is a milestone. It's not a task. So you've got to remember that on each of these steps here, we can create tasks, which are all those little bits of work that need to be done to accomplish that milestone. What we don't want to do is have a workflow that is full of tasks so that we can try and see when it's moving, because our staff are going to find it really hard to navigate and really hard to keep pushing it through every time you do one little thing. So what we do is our big milestones we put into our workflow. So we can see this here. So we can see that appointment setup will have a lot of things involved in it. So we've taken the call, we've added the contact, we've talked to them maybe to get some initial information, we've sent out an email with the date, the time, who they're speaking to, if they are coming into a location, a map, or online meeting details. So all of those little things make up that one milestone, but we don't want all of that in our workflow, because then it just becomes really hard to manage. What we do want is we want that step put into our workflow, and then on the right, we want to click on the step. And it's here in these step actions that we can do all of those little things that make up the milestone, make up that step. So there's a lot of different ones. So we can add a file note. There's a lot of accounting that we could add into it if we wanted to. We can add parties at that point. So where we're adding who our client is, we're adding all the details that we want about them. We can add any custom data. So they may be ringing, for example, with immigration, and we want to know if they're on a current visa. We want to know when their current visa expires. We want to know anything we can before that initial inquiry, so we have enough information to really go off to do that research before we speak to them. And we may want to add lots of tasks or automatic emails as well. So we turn those on when we want to use them. We add any parties that we want put in on those step changes. Here we can add any emails. Now these emails are auto-generated and sent. And here we create our tasks. And what I was talking about before is all of those little tasks that make up the step. And this is where we would put them in. So it may be here that we want to assign to the paralegal to send the email for the appointment. And what we would do there, we would create an email template to go with that, so that the paralegal can input the date of the appointment, the time, any documents they may be required to bring, and then we can auto-generate that into an email. So all the paralegal needs to do is select that from the email templates when sending and send that out. And just remember as well with our email templates that not only can we access them from Actionstep, the paralegal can also access the template from the Outlook add-in. And then when they've done that, and they can say that they've done that task, and while we haven't moved steps, you'll see that task has been done. So we're still keeping aligned with what our staff is doing, but we've got a condensed workflow that's manageable.
Can you speak to the difference between that email that an employee chooses to send out versus that automated email that you mentioned just earlier?
Yep, sure. So an email that someone chooses to send out. So I'm just going to jump into one of my matters. Okay, so let's, for instance, say I'm choosing to send out from Actionstep. So I can come into Actionstep, go to Compose, and then I can select a template from up here. Now I probably don't have, I'm just going to do this one. I probably might not have all the fields in there, but there you go. So this one's brought in my client's name, and it just says your engagement letter and fee estimate is attached. So that's something that I've manually done, but it is a lot quicker when we create a template and send it out manually. Now for an automated email, what I'll do,
so it looks like you're going back in through the admin panel into the matter type.
Yep, into the matter type.
Workflow.
So let's say we'll just say appointment setup. So I'm just going to, sorry. We'll say appointment setup. So what we'll do is we'll create just an email template. So this is just an email template that's going to go out. So I've just written the body, I've given it a name. I'm just going to hit save. Okay, so then what we want to do is go back into our workflow. And we'll say that on that step, that appointment setup, once we change steps, we want that email to go out. And let's say we want that to go out from the paralegal to the client, and we want to use the template that we just set up. So you can see there, we can create the automatic email within the screen here, or we can use a template that we've already done. So I'm just going to use that template that we already did and hit save. Now, what will happen is when we change steps, that email will automatically go out. So you won't see that email go out. There won't be anything in drafts. It will be automatically sent.
Great. And I know this might be easier said than done, but are you able to give an example, show an example of where you change steps?
Yeah. So I'll just run back to...
So
Okay,
appointment
so you can
setup is
see,
one.
yeah, and then you can see here that email from the paralegal to the client, we can view the message here. So we can also choose not to send it.
Okay.
But when we go to change a step, oh, yeah, that would make sense so that someone's got... So there's a from their email, so we need the paralegal. So when we hit change step, then that email's been sent. And
Terrific.
I got that email to my inbox.
Okay.
And then if we look in our sent items, that email's in our sent items.
Fantastic. That's great. Are there any questions from our attendees, our webinar attendees, on workflows, automation, anything you might want for Natasha to demonstrate here in our webinar? Not seeing any questions just yet or any comments, but let's just give this just a moment. Natasha?
Sure. So just to let everyone know, there's a few examples there. There's also examples within our user guide on how you can use Zapier and some basic Zaps, but it's really moving data from one integration into another. So when somebody does a file note, you can have that sent as an email, let's say, and you can have it filter as well. So we can use, there's all these things within apps that are, there's filters, so you can filter for certain information. So when a file note's created that may have the word, let's say, deleted, we could have those file notes emailed to someone. So it's kind of thinking what automation you're looking for and then how we do that in different ways, if that makes sense. So there's a lot you can do with Zapier.
That's great. Yep. It looks like there's a lot you can do with Zapier as well as the internal functionality built into Actionstep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It works hand in hand.
Okay, great. I don't see any other questions that have come across. Were there any other workflows or tasks that you wanted to share with the group today?
Yep, maybe what I will show actually is looking back at that matter type. One of the questions was actually about custom data. Now, if we go into our workflow and we go into metadata, this is where we create what's called data collections. And data collections is a collection of custom data. So we'll see here I have initial inquiry as a data collection. And here I've just got details. So that's details surrounding the initial inquiry. Here we may also put date of consult. And then we can make that a date field. So when we're making our custom data fields, it lists here the common ones that we use, which is single line text, drop down list, date, and money. And as you can imagine, single line text is giving you a small amount of characters. A drop down list gives you a list of options to choose from. Now, this is really handy for custom data when we're asking our staff to fill in certain details. Your staff will write things differently, have different words for things, different spellings, which makes it really hard to report on. So if we're looking at a specific set of data that you're trying to collate, a drop-down list is really, really good for that. A date is obviously, say for this, a date of consults when we're using a date, and money, if we're talking about our fees, disbursements, tax, anything at all, anything to do with money. But there's a whole lot of other custom data options that you can have. Protected text line. So this is if somebody enters it, it doesn't show the characters, just like when you enter a password. Multi-line text may be if they're doing a paragraph. So our single line text gives a small amount of characters. Multi-line gives a large number of characters. It gives you a paragraph, a number, which is pretty self-explanatory, a date and a memo field. If you need to write something, date and time with the memo field, date and time. Linked calendar appointment is interesting, and that will create a calendar appointment when it's entered automatically. Drop-down list multi-select, again, is a drop-down list where we can have more than one option. And then these are interesting here, auto-incrementing number. So auto-incrementing number global would mean if every single matter needed a different unique number, then we would use that globally. So it will auto-allocate that number incremental in a global fashion. So if you open this one and it's number 1, open another matter with that custom data field, that will be 2. And it will work like that. Auto incrementing number works locally on the matter. So you may want each field to have a different matter, say in a multi-line, and it will increment that. Our checkbox is a true or false. Linked contact record means that you can enter a contact that's in your contact list, any contact. So if we're trying to, rather than letting somebody type in a name, we want them to choose it from our contact list. And custom HTML is really interesting. That will bring in merge fields, but only for display. So you wouldn't be able to edit it, but you can display it. So if we want, say, for example, our client's date of birth in the matter itself, so we can see that information without having to swap, we can use that custom HTML for that. And that's a really interesting one. So once we've created those data fields, we can hit save. And then it's these fields here that will build most of that automation. These fields here can go into emails. They can go into our document templates. It's everything, kind of all the data that we need. We can also export that data out. We can report on that data, and we can use it in our integrations as well. So these are really important.
Natasha, would you recommend to our customers that they always test out these automated functionalities with a kind of like a demo or a dummy contact, maybe using a personal email address just to see how everything comes across?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. You always want to test out any of these functions first using, as you said, a personal email address or your own email address so that you can see firsthand what your clients and customers are seeing before they do.
Terrific. Well, we don't have any other questions that have appeared in the chat, and so we're going to go ahead and wrap up our webinar today. We thank all of you for joining us. We really appreciate your taking time out to learn more about Actionstep and the potential that's there for automation, either using built-in Actionstep functionality or with Zapier. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact our team at customersuccess@actionstep.com.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.